Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This person has created an all-in-one cat litter changing station that features an elevated litter box which makes pet care safer and pain-free. Please help me welcome the founder of Lofty Loo, Amy Leiker. How is it going, Amy?
Hi there. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
And I'm excited as well. I know we've kind of had to go through a lot to get to this point, and I know we're both probably maybe a little bit out of it, but I promise we're going to make it. We're going to make it through this, and I think the audience is going to get some good nuggets from this. I love your story, just kind of preparing for the interview and kind of going through your story. And I'm like, man, this is really cool. And then with the personality, the upbeat, positive personality, I'm looking forward to this one. So I guess for the audience member, I always try to see if the guest can explain their product. And I know we were talking offhand, and said I was going to pull it up just so as you're talking about it, the audience members can kind of get an idea of what you have created with your cat litter changing station. And yeah, so I kind of hand it over to you to kind of maybe kind of describe the product a little bit, just so the audience members can get a little bit of a better idea of what you have created.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on today. I am a podcast newbie. I'm so out of my element in talking to people over, podcast and video, and I feel like I'm in really good hands. So I appreciate you helping me and supporting me throughout my journey as I'm just now launching the world's first ever raised litter station for cats. Just a little bit about myself. I am a mom. I live in Kansas City. I've spent most of my life in healthcare, taking care of people on the business side of things and helping promote physicians, hospitals, and how to make the world basically a better place and taking care of our communities in which we live. In During the COVID era, if you will, I can't believe it feels like it was just yesterday, but it was several years ago, right? Um, my aunt had a neighbor who was hospitalized during COVID, and he had a cat. And when he was in the hospital, they had asked her to take care of his cat. So when she walked into the door, to take care of the pet, she quickly recognized that his house, unfortunately, was a total disarray.
Mm.
The cat had been urinating and was just, going to the bathroom in every which way except the litter box. And to no fault of the owners, and quite frankly, no fault to the pet. The owner had just fell on hard times. Obviously, it was COVID and he was sick.
Yep.
And the bottom line, Dave, is that he wasn't able to bend down to the ground to take care of the cat's litter box.
Wow. And this is a curious question for myself. I know, kind of growing up, I had a dog, and I obviously have friends who have cats. So if the litter box is not cleaned out, do the cat maybe does the cat not go in it at that point? Is that how that works?
Yeah, well, in full transparency, Dave, I have to tell you, I don't even own a cat. And so I was a lot like you. I'm an animal lover. I had cats when I was younger. I've got 3 kids now, one of which we call him a little alien because he's allergic to everything, including horses and cats and pet hair.
Yep.
And so I had to learn a lot about this as well as we were looking for solutions for a litter box where the gentleman would be able to come home and be able to take care of the cat independently, whether he was in a wheelchair or using a walker or a cane, that he wouldn't physically have to bend down to the ground to clean it. Now that I've done all the research, I've been working on Lofty Loo for almost 4 years,
Wow.
coordinating and learning from veterinarians to cat specialists, cat behaviorists. And of course, cats want options. They want a clean litter space. And they want a place where they feel obviously clean and secure. And
Gotcha.
so, of course, if the litter box isn't well maintained, I also learned this. So for every cat, at least 2 litter boxes are needed. And
Really?
so I've learned all kinds of things about litter boxes, but the most important thing, and some people chuckle, I even kind of giggle or pinch myself of like, how did this happen? Like, how did I end up developing a cat litter box of
Yeah.
all people? Like, it's kind of it's ironic and funny and a blessing all at the same time. But my goal is to take care of the people who are taking care of pets and
Mm,
taking care of cats. Because if we can't take care of ourselves, we certainly can't take care of our animals. And so the Lofty Lou's mission is so much more than a litter box.
yeah,
Um, we can talk about this later, but cats love elevated spaces.
I was gonna
They
say.
like to be, again, safe and away from other animals, dogs, small children crawling on the floor. They love to be able to perch and see their surroundings,
Yeah,
and it just makes sense for people as well.
yeah, yeah. No, and that's one of the cool things because, like you said, you are taking care of the people who are taking care of the pet, but it seems like in turn you're also taking care of the pet because you're providing a better environment for them as it relates to, like you said, being able to perch and kind of being a little bit more elevated. Which I always kind of wonder why our cats always in like windowsills and things like that, but I didn't again realize that they kind of like being able to perch and being at these elevated positions compared to their surroundings, so
Right.
that they can kind of scour over kind of what's going on, which I thought was cool. And then I guess maybe even going back to what you were saying, and this is the thing why I love intellectual property so much, why I love kind of creating and inventing, because you could be somebody such as yourself who, again, it if you're looking at it from the outside in, you're like, I don't get it. Okay, she's in the healthcare field, she doesn't have a cat, and but all of a sudden you have a product that for cats and in a different field from kind of what you're in. So that's one of the great things that I love about inventing and just being able to identify a problem in a marketplace and kind of provide that solution to that problem. So that again, that's one of the great things I love. Like I said, especially as a patent attorney, but just here in the U.S. and kind of being able to kind of take advantage of different problems based on the solutions that you created for and kind of create something out of it and kind of make money from it. So I do want to kind of pull this up again just so kind of people can get an idea of the Lofty Loo, the raised litter box. And I know you talked about it a little bit as far as it being kind of raised off the ground. Can you maybe kind of go a little bit more in detail into that as far as the benefit of the litter box? Because again, and I don't have a cat, so I apologize if I kind of get this wrong. Are typical litter boxes just on the floor of the home? Is that typically how that's done?
So, in all of the time that owners have domesticated cats, quite frankly, of the amount of cats that we've taken care of, there has never been an elevated, off the floor,
Mm,
human accessible litter box.
hmm,
And I love that you're working in IP, and certainly I've learned a lot along my journey as I was trying to find a litter box solution that was elevated and up and off the floor. A few things that we know about cats, right? They love to be up high. I remember when I was little and we'd hear stories about, the kitten or the cat would crawl all the way to the top of the tree and you'd have to
yep,
call the fire department to get it down.
yep,
Um, Cats instinctively love to be up high. It's where they feel safest and
yep,
secure. And so I love what you said, and it goes really kind of hand in hand with Lofty Lou's mission of it's better for cats. Cats feel safer.
yep,
Again, they're away from prey. Quite frankly, they're away and safe to do their most vulnerable business when they're elevated and up high.
yep,
They love to perch. And then for humans, of course, who wants to get down to the ground
yep.
on their floor, on their hands and knees, and on their bottom, scrubbing and cleaning a litter box?
Right.
I'll just give you an example. We have, during our prototyping and testing, I donated a few Lofty Loos to a local cat cafe and shelter here in Kansas City. And when I first walked in with my Lofty Loo, again, just ironic how the timing of it all works. But when I walked in, there was a woman that was cleaning out the litter boxes. And if
Hmm,
you can imagine a cat cafe or a shelter, they've got 40, 50 cats,
right.
right? And so imagine how many litter boxes they have to clean. And this woman was sitting on her bottom, hands and knees, scooping out and cleaning these litter boxes on the floor.
Hmm,
And so when I wheeled, Lofty Loo sits on wheels, which is another really cool
that's
advantage. But
cool.
when I wheeled Lofty Loo around the corner, literally, that's hilarious, literally, no pun intended, but picked up one of the litter boxes that was on the floor and just put it inside the Lofty Loo cabinet.
Mm.
So the Lofty Loo is versatile in regards to what type of litter box, what size of litter box, um, so that the cat owner and the cat, like whatever litter box works best for you. 90% of the litter boxes that are on the market are going to fit inside the Lofty Loo itself.
Nice. Nice.
So the woman that was cleaning the litter pan is doing the exact same thing, except she's able to stand and very limited bending, if any. And the cat doesn't have to be down on the ground where it's most vulnerable. It
Yep.
loves to be, cats love to be up high. They love to perch. So we say it's better for cats and easier for owners.
I like that. And then I guess I hadn't realized, which makes perfect sense, that as you get older as an owner of a pet or of a cat, a lot of times it may just be you and the cat. And, we all kind of love our pets, especially as we get older. But again, I think you have pointed out the mobility issues. You're not able to kind of bend down like you maybe once did to clean out the litter box or to pick up the cat and those different things. And seems like this helps out with that to have to prevent the owner having to kind of bend down to clean the litter box or even kind of to pick up the cat, which is a great thing. And I guess I hadn't thought about that when you were talking about kind of getting older and having, being less mobile and still being able. This is great for that situation because you can still own a pet without having to. I think the situation you pointed out at the end, kind of letting the cat kind of do whatever it wants to because you can't get down and clean out the litter box or take care of the cat that like you maybe once was. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool and just goes towards you kind of identifying that problem and saying, okay, I'm gonna do something about it. I guess what makes, because what they say, a lot of the inventions, if you want to go to a place where you have a lot of inventions, go to the graveyard, because a lot of people, they kind of come up or they have this ideal, but they never do anything with it. They just kind of leave it an ideal until the day that they die. What made you say, okay, this is something that I'm kind of going to go full throttle on, or I'm bringing to life? Because again, as you talked about, you don't own a pet, you don't own a cat, and you're in a completely different field. So what made you kind of feel so strongly about this? Like, okay, I'm gonna actually make this into a actual product that I can kind of give and sell to different people to help them out with their problem.
Well, some may call it grit, driven determination, and others may call it crazy. And I think I'm kind of somewhere in
Yeah,
the middle.
for sure.
To me, Lofty Lou was built out of love and necessity for my aunt's neighbor, who we love so much. And we knew he loved his cat.
Yep.
He's a good man. He loves his cat. He's a good cat owner
Yep.
and a good cat dad, but he fell ill and he was aging. And you're exactly right. He had retired in Florida. It was just him and his cat. And if it weren't for my aunt living next door, he had a potential of losing his cat.
Right.
And the numbers are staggering of how many cats are relinquished to our pet shelters across America. Hundreds of thousands of cats.
When I
are
heard
stripped.
that, I couldn't believe that many cats are given back because the owner can't take care of it. That's crazy.
It's and mobility issues is right up there. It's having the right tools to be able to take care of your animal. We have a customer that's in Missouri. She's 94 years old. She has not been able to change her cat's litter box independently in 2 decades. So her daughter, she's got 2 daughters, and they would rotate going over to their mother's home and cleaning out the litter box every couple of days. So she was able to keep her cat. But Dave, can you imagine not being able to take care of that yourself?
Right.
And you would have to smell that, look at that, knowing that you couldn't take care of it yourself. And you would have to wait, 1 or 2 days to have your daughter or somebody else come and change it for you. Obviously, the cat's not real happy about it.
Right.
And now with Lofty Lou, she's able to change the litter pan all by herself.
See,
It's so much more than a litter box. It's
Right.
creating independency.
Yep.
It's giving back that integrity.
Yep.
that we all need as we age.
And that's a great story. And I would, because yeah, we get off into it, but I would imagine that this stuff is tough. Having a business, kind of maintaining a business, dealing with manufacturers, and kind of different things like that. It can be tough. And I would imagine a lot of times you can like, okay, what am I doing this for? But then you kind of hear those stories or those positive reviews from your customers, and I would imagine that helps you kind of keep pushing along because you are making a difference. And like you said, creating that independence. As we get older and still being able to kind of take care or care for our pets. So it seems like those type stories will have to kind of keep you going, especially during the tough times in business.
Absolutely. I've always been driven by helping the underdog, by making something happen that maybe people say can't happen. Um, and again, it's something within me. I think that one of the funny stories is when my kids were little, they would joke and say, I'm going to turn into a lonely old cat lady when they leave for college. And now it's like, is this real life? Like, how is this happening? I've got two kids, one of which it's graduated from college, one that's a senior in college, and one that will soon be heading to college. And now I'm living and breathing cats and cat litter boxes and cat owners. And I love them so much. And I can't wait to be able to give back, to continue donating to people that are in need of them. So there are a certain segment of elderly, the folks that are struggling from a mobility perspective. But Dave, there's millions of disabled people that are animal lovers.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in a wheelchair at 27 and you can't change the cat's litter pan by yourself?
No.
It just doesn't make sense. And so I think it's that passion and that drive and that love for people and to be able to make a difference that drives me and fuels me every day.
No, and I think that's I mean that's a good point. A lot of different good points that you made. But again, we think of okay, just getting older and having mobility issues and not being able to kind of get around like you once was able to, kind of care for your pet, maybe care for yourself. But it's a lot of people that kind of fall on hard times, whether it's kind of going through an injury or a surgery, and they're in their 20s or 30s, and they can't
Right.
take care of their pet in a way that they once was. But Lofty Loo allows them to kind of be able to get to that by kind of creating that independence and kind of having that elevated litter box so that they don't have to kind of bend down or do something that just kind of their particular situation at that point in time wouldn't allow them to do. So I think it even has greater applicability, not just with older people, but with people who kind of just maybe going through something at that particular point in time in their life and are kind of limited from a mobility issue.
Right. One thing we haven't talked about, Dave, and especially, around the IP of it is the storage. So there also wasn't anything elevated, raised that was combined with built-in storage. And if you think about the supplies needed to take care of a cat litter box,
Yep.
so again, we'll go back to my aunt when she walked into her neighbor's house. His extra litter was in the garage. His litter scoop was visibly laying on the kitchen floor. He had to dispose of the cat litter itself, and that was either in the kitchen trash can or the bathroom trash can. And so when my aunt walked in, and us not being cat people, like, where's everything at, right? And so that's the other thing that we wanted. It was an all-in-one cat litter changing station where you had accessibility to change it independently, but then you also had access to all of your supplies within an arm's reach. That doesn't just affect people with mobility issues. It affects, typical people that are perfectly mobile, that want to stay tidy and organized and have everything in one solution. And so the Lofty Loo, the storage area, is very spacious. Again, nothing like it on the market. It's something I'm trying to protect from an IP perspective as well, that it stores all your extra litter. It stores a trash can. It stores your scooper. Everything is tucked, tidy, and hidden. It helps control odor. And it's just an all-in-one solution that's, again, better for cats and easier for owners.
So, and it seems like that's another big part of this thing where it's like, okay, like you said, you don't have to go in a garage to get a cleaning supplier, go to the front porch to get the litter. Like all that can be kind of contained within the actual the station, which again, that's another great point. Now I have to ask you this, kind of going back into the IP. Did you know about IP ahead of time? Again, just whether it's from the healthcare or marketing, the days of marketing, was that something that you kind of knew about? So you already kind of maybe put up on game, so to speak, or you already knew a patent attorney or whatever the case may be to say, okay, I have this thing that I've created, or at least kind of an MVP, or, a minimal viable product. Let me take steps to protect this thing. Was that something that's like, okay, let me call up my patent attorney or the family's patent attorney and kind of get going? Or was this like a kind of really learning curve for you to be able to kind of go through this process of protecting the ideal and so forth and so on?
Well, I've definitely had my fair share of learnings of intellectual property management, if you will. So I've worked in healthcare over 25 years. Gosh,
Okay.
where does the time go? I feel so old now. Um, so I've done my fair share of work in regards to IP, trademark management. I'm obviously in marketing,
Nice.
so I'm very familiar with protecting proprietary work, protecting brands, logos, etc. So I knew I had a really good idea that was going to take me some time to work on it. I wish I had like a rich uncle or a family attorney. Unfortunately, I don't. Um, I'm just one of those people that has worked for everything that I've had, just kind of scrappy, trying to figure everything out on my own
Yeah.
through, sometimes hard knock life, if you will. But I figured it out one step at a time, and um, have came across some really good people just like yourself who are willing to be supportive. And I appreciate you just be letting me be on here and helping me
Oh,
share my product with you. At the same time, I've ran into some really good people who have said, I believe in your product and let me help you. I didn't realize how expensive they were though. Like that's where all my money is going. I don't have any marketing dollars. I don't have any like much money left because everything is going to my IP attorneys right now.
no, and again, yeah, this stuff, unfortunately, is not the cheapest, particularly when you're talking about filing for patents and things like that. Let me ask you this, because again, and I want to pull up the actual product again, because when
Okay.
you look at it, and I think you have referenced this in another interview, it can kind of almost come across as like a furniture piece, right? Where it's like, okay, it's it's obviously it's for a litter box, is a litter changing station, so you have the elevator litter box there, and like you said, it has some storage and things like that. So did you have an issue at all with people? Because I've kind of seen this, especially kind of watching Shark Tank, where you have people pitch their product or whatever the case may be, their business to the sharks, and the sharks like, oh, you'll never be able to get a patent on that. I actually have a funny story where Raquel Graham, who was on Shark Tank, and she actually was on this podcast, and kind of she was saying how she almost fired her patent attorney listening to the sharks on Shark Tank, because the sharks was like, oh, why is it taking so long? I don't think you'll be able to get a patent, and I'm like, that, just because it's taking so long, you're dealing with the federal government still, with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and sometimes the delay is on them, and that was the exact thing with her case. But she was kind of saying on the podcast how she almost fired her patent attorney listening to the sharks, and how the sharks kind of were trying to tell her that she's probably not going to be able to get a patent because it's taking so long. And I'm saying all that to say that a lot of times you have doubters where they're looking at the product, or they're looking at maybe the sketch of a product, and they're saying, you'll never be able to protect that. You'll never be able to get a patent on that. It's just a furniture piece that's out there. Did you ever run into those? Because I think those are like very detrimental, because I mean, I came across a lot of those situations where people almost listen to someone, a doubter or a naysayer who wasn't a patent attorney, uh, kind of say, you'll never be able to get a patent on this thing because it's kind of too simple, or whatever the case may be. And they almost listened to them, and their life would have kind of been different if they had listened to that person. So did you come across people who try to tell you you'll never be able to get a patent on this thing because it's simple, or just an ordinary furniture product, or whatever the case may be?
Well, I think just as a product developer, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's trying to start up a business, you've got to have really thick skin, first of all, and you can't take anything personal. It's so hard.
Yep,
And you just have to trust in yourself because the world is full of naysayers.
you're right
In
about that.
regards to my patent, I had about 15 conversations with my patent attorney so that he could understand the utility and the functionality
Yeah.
of the Lofty Loo because people think it's already been there, right?
Yeah.
So when you see Lofty Loo, it's like, wait, that's way too simple. And sometimes the most simplest ideas
Are the
can make
best.
the biggest impact in someone's life. And it's like, how has this not ever been thought of,
Yeah.
right? There's a gazillion different types of litter box furniture enclosures. Everyone's trying to hide the litter box, put it in a cabinet.
Mm,
Nobody wants to see it. We're going to make the cat jump through hoops and sliding doors and jumping over apparatuses to use the litter box. Like it just doesn't make sense.
gotcha.
And so when you start looking at, okay, what is on the market for cat litter boxes? What is the functionality for cat litter boxes?
Yeah.
There's nothing like it that exists. And so, as you well know, when you start looking at it from an IP perspective, you're looking at not just the design, but also the functionality, the
Yep.
utility
Ability.
of it, the
Yep.
purpose of it. And so, yes, this, and also like to your point, when you go to the patent office, the best way to describe it is like you're going to the DMV, right? They give you a number and then you just have to sit back and kind of wait and hope and
Wait,
pray that your number is called. And it could be a year, it could be 3 years.
yep.
It's a very, very long process. And there are a lot of naysayers out there. One of which is my family. Like, hey, mom, are you ever going to get this done? Like, your
Mm,
friends, you're still working on that letter, but they think I'm crazy. And part of me might be. I mean, I take a lot of pride in like being the crazy cat lady without a cat. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but I am hell bent
yeah.
on getting this Lofty Loo out into the masses to make a difference and to forever change the way that people take care of their cats.
No, and I love that. And I love a few things that you said right there. One of them is, unfortunately, the naysayers may be within your own family, whether it's families, whether it's friends. And you can't kind of let that deter you or discourage you. You got to kind of keep pushing through and kind of maybe talk to those people, a little less, or maybe kind of completely kind of separate yourself from them people if it kind of gets too bad. But that's just the nature of the game, where the naysayers are not just people who are strangers or whatever the case may be, but they can also be friends and family, which is kind of crazy to think, but it is what it is. So I'm glad that it seems like you definitely had thick skin to say, okay, hey, whatever, I'm gonna keep going on. And again, I think a big part of that is when you, especially when you start to kind of see the difference that it's making in others' lives. It seems like it kind of makes it a little bit more easier to kind of really tune out the naysayers and kind of keep pushing forward. So I guess you talked about, and it is two type of patents you have, or it's three type of patents. The two big type of patents. You have the utility patent, which you talked about, kind of protect the functionality of it. But then you also have a design patent, or kind of generally speaking, you have a utility patent, and you have a design patent. That design patent kind of protects the ornamental features of it. Now, do you have both of those, or did you just go with one or the other? Kind of what was that process when you kind of were kind of deciding how to get protection on this thing?
Well, I'm still in the midst of it. So
Okay.
I've got both
Okay.
and
Nice.
working both. My goal is to have world domination on any elevated cat litter box, and we'll
Well,
see if that happens or not, right? It's always
okay.
good to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think our family and our closest people to us are sometimes, their words kind of hurt the most.
Yeah.
And as any entrepreneur or developer, you just have to stay true to your roots, stay on your path, stay on your course,
Yeah.
and everything else will just shake out.
Nice. Nice. No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, you talk about world domination, and this is one of those products. I know the big market here or in the world is here in the US market. And I've kind of interviewed some people who have started businesses over in different countries. And again, they all want to kind of participate in the US market just because it's essentially the biggest market. But this particular product, people have cats in other countries, whether it's I would imagine China or India or kind of countries in Europe and different things like that. And we all know with a U.S. patent, it only protected here in the U.S. So with the whole world domination in mind, did you kind of decide, or what was that kind of determination process or decision-making process to say, okay, I am going to not only protect it here in the US, but look to protect it abroad, or like I'm gonna not look to protect it abroad? Because again, this has applicability in other countries as well.
So, it's all just a step by step process, right? So, every day is just putting one foot in front of the next and not trying to go too big too fast. And that's the other thing is an entrepreneur, whether it's patents, whether it's retailers, whether it's sales channels, the most important thing is to make sure you have a really solid foundation, right? That you have a product that's actually sellable,
Yeah.
that's marketable, that you have a really good quality product, that your customers' feedback is good. And with patents, and obviously you can talk more about this, with a design patent, for instance, it is what it is, right? You have to stick to that design patent.
Yep. Yep.
I might have 10 different design patents for an elevated litter box,
For sure.
the
Yep.
functionality also. So all of these take a lot of time, a lot of resources, and just trying to prioritize what is going to happen next and what your budget is, what your long-term goals are.
Yep.
I kind of say that a little facetiously in regards to world domination, but I guess, my ultimate goal, I'm going to turn 50 in January. So, where's the time go again? But to me, my mindset and my drive and how I consider and live my life is so different than when I was 30,
Mm.
that my purpose is to help people. Of course, I want to make money. And of course, I want to sell as many Lofty Loos as I
For
can.
sure. For sure.
But at the end of the day, perhaps maybe the end of my life, when I lay my head down at the pillow on my pillow at night, I want to know I changed the world of how people are taking care of their cats. They no longer belong on the floor. They're elevated. I'm keeping pets at home where they belong with their owners. Again, it doesn't have to be necessarily the elderly. It could be the weekend warrior that twisted their ankle, can't get down to the ground. This is a life changing product built out of love and necessity. And I founded that. And to me, yes, I want to protect it. But again, it's about purpose driven work, less about the amount of sales that I can do.
No, yeah, for sure. And I love what you just said there. I was one of the guys I listened to from just a like YouTube videos, podcast is Patrick Bet David, and I think he always talks about where you kind of go through these different phases, and I kind of forget the phases at this point in time. But in the earlier years, one of the phases is trying to make as much money as you can. But then as you kind of get towards the latter years in life, it's more about giving back. And it seems like again, what you're saying is, at this point where you're at, you're just trying to give back and help people. And I personally think, one of the great things from a patent attorney perspective is you get a chance to see a lot of cool stuff. And I think it's an ingenious, and I think it's an underrated thing where people can come up with something in their head, a solution to an issue, continue to work at it, go through the prototypes, go through the iterations until it gets get a physical product, and then to have
Right.
somebody, a complete stranger, want to buy that product because it helps them in their life. I think that process is a extremely underrated process, but when you think of it, I think it's a ingenious thing. So, and
Yes.
obviously you have participated in it. You're actually doing it. So you are part of that genius class who can be able to say, I came up with something as an ideal in my head, brought it to life, and now I'm selling it, and it's actually helping people out. So yeah, no, I mean, it's all the respect to you, and like I said, I just think that process is not given enough credit, because it's again, it's a lot of people who kind of don't want to kind of go through, and maybe you do have to be a little bit crazy to kind of go through that process, to kind of fight tooth and nail through all the things that's going to come up throughout it all. But to be able to say kind of you went through it, I don't know. It seems like, and you can probably answer this question. Do you feel like I want to say life is maybe a little bit more purposeful as a result of it, because you have kind of kids, and I would imagine at some point you have grandkids and things like that. But it seems like kind of having gone through this process and being able to put something that's so purposeful out in the universe, it seems like it kind of makes you feel differently. I guess at the end of the day, at least that's kind of how I would imagine that process would be.
Oh my God. Well, you said so many things that I want to respond to. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to remember them all, but don't be calling me a grandma just yet.
Well, I'm just I say that respectfully. I'm just saying it.
Oh,
I don't
no,
want
that's
to. I didn't want to equate this to being like the greatest thing that you ever did, because I think kind of raising a family and things like that is probably more important. But I do think that this is probably maybe a 1B to that.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think, when I get testimonials or I get a customer that emails me or even calls me, it can literally bring tears to my eyes to know, I had a customer say, I'm 80 years old, and if I can put this Lofty Loo together, anyone can. Or when I have a customer who orders multiple Lofty Loos, right? They start off with one, they've got 6 cats, and they're ordering 3 more. Like my heart melts, and not because of the sell,
Yeah.
but because I know it's working.
Yep.
Like I know I'm saving their backs and their knees and their joints and keeping their cats at home with them. So there's not a greater high. There's not a greater purpose than to know I'm changing lives of both people and pets.
Nice.
Um, there
Yeah.
was one there was one thing, I can't remember. I don't know, you might have to cut this out if I ramble on too long,
Oh,
but
go
you
ahead. Go ahead.
said something that made me think, and I can't remember what it was, but going
Is it
back to
maybe
how
bringing things to life, or from an idea to an actual product and selling? Like I said, I know that process is people don't give it enough credit, but I'm not sure if that's what you were talking about, or if maybe it was something else I said.
no, I can't remember. But
Yeah.
let me start over. Let me try to gather my thoughts.
I know I said it. I know I said a lot there, and I know for me, I'm
I
kind
know,
of
I was
similar.
like, "Oh my gosh," you have like
And I'm similar where I can kind of forget things, so I try to kind of like have my kind of pen and paper so I can write stuff down or put it in my phone so I'm not forgetting it, because I can say something or think of something, and then the next minute I'll be like, "Oh, what did I just think of again?" So, well, it doesn't help that I'm in my 30s doing that, but
yeah. Wait till you get to be 50, you start losing your marbles. But no, the a couple of things I wanted to hit on. One is you talked about like being surreal or, the the feeling that you get when you're able to bring a product to the market.
yeah,
And, there have been a lot of naysayers along the path of, I've been working on Lofty Loo now almost 4 years. And I never knew in a million years that it would take me this long to bring what is a 2x2 cabinet to the market. Right. I guess I was naive in thinking, oh, I can whip this up in no time. I already have the vision, the drawing. But then by the time you find a manufacturer, that you look at the type of materials, I meticulously wrote the directions like I was giving it to my 15-year-old to assemble. Everything is me. So if you look at the website and you look at the photos or the videos, that's all me. I'm running around like a three-legged ninja trying to get this cat litter box off the ground, manufactured, mass produced, put on a website, and now I'm responsible for selling it.
mm,
And so when that process happens and you see that through fruition, yeah, you feel pretty darn good about it.
yep.
And so to all the naysayers who have said like, you're still working on this, or why is it taking so long to get, through the patent office, or where are you at with X, Y, and Z? My response is like, have you invented a product before? Like, have you manufactured and mass produced a product and brought it to market and sold it? I didn't have that attitude 4 years ago or even 2 years ago. It would hit me in the gut. It would make me sad. It made me second guess myself. And now that I'm seeing it, my attitude is a little bit different.
Yep. But it just seemed like I would imagine that it means that much more to you. And again, I would also, again, I'm guessing this is, you have to let me know if this is a true statement or not. But I would imagine that you wouldn't trade it for the world at that point, having gone through it, thinking it's going to be maybe an overnight, not necessarily an overnight success, but it wouldn't take you 4 years to kind of get things, out there, or kind of been working on things for 4 years. I would imagine that you wouldn't kind of take that time back, because you learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure it was an adventurous process through it all.
Well, there's a couple things. So when I look back on it, sometimes I really do think like, was I crazy? Like, I'm a one woman show. I am a small startup in Kansas City by myself, developing a furniture piece where I am competing against some of the largest furniture manufacturers
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
What the heck am I thinking? Like, I was so naive, but yet so passionate that I kind of had blinders on. Like, I just was a go get it kind of person. I knew my neighbors needed it. I knew there were cat owners that needed it. I had done my research and due diligence in coordinating with, again, the specialist on the veterinarian side who said, Amy, you can't imagine how many dogs I see a day who are getting into cat feces. And it's dangerous for the dogs.
Yeah.
Cat litter pans do not belong on the floor. What you're doing is good. And so when you believe in your mission, it's a heck of a lot easier. And now, of course, 4 years later, I think, gosh, I've got the hardest parts done, right? My patent is making good progress. The manufacturing, Dave, is so perfect. I can say with all confidence, 100% of Lofty Loo customers love it.
Nice. Nice.
100% of cats love it. So of course I'm happy. And I feel like, well, the hardest part's done. A lot of the hard work is done
Yeah.
until you get to sales. And now it's like, how do you compete with the big boys?
Yeah.
How do you compete online when everything is pay to play? How am I going to be able to leverage and scale this business the way that I am now? Like, certainly me running the show is not sustainable. I think a lot of times too, when people go to the website, they hear Lofty Lou even on podcasts like this. Um, oh, which by the way, remind me to tell you that Lofty Lou was just awarded 2024 Pet Industry Best Litter Box.
That's,
So
I'm writing
when
it down.
they hear all of this, they assume I'm a big corporation,
Yep.
and I'm not. And so there's always going to be obstacles to overcome, but I am sure proud of the work that I've done and where I am today, but so much more to come.
No, and again, congrats on that award for 2024. That's huge. And
It's
I guess that does bring up maybe some questions that I always have, because I kind of think from things not only from a patent attorney's perspective, but also from a business perspective. And it seems like you do have options. I guess one of those things that I would ask you is, what would be the goal? Because you talked about maybe it's not sustainable having you kind of run the show kind of long term. Do you kind of see yourself, maybe kind of bring somebody in and try to kind of make something bigger out of this to kind of really be able to compete with those big companies? Or is it, a process of, okay, let's just try to sell as many as we can, and then we maybe kind of sell the business to kind of a large pet store? And it seems like you can kind of, you have different options. Do you kind of think about that at all at this point in time, or not really? You're just trying to still kind of worry about the day to day and kind of getting things perfect and satisfying the customers and kind of, making sure the sales are what they need to be.
I think a little of both. You have such good questions, by the way, but a little of both. So I have been asked to license Lofty Lou,
Nice, nice,
which
nice.
it's not off the table. It's not my first pick. Lofty Lou is my baby, and I take it, very personal because I'm so passionate about the mission behind it.
Yep.
And so I want to see this through. I'm not saying I don't want to run it, because I feel like I've always been kind of a big picture thinker.
Yep.
I'm a strategist at heart.
Yep.
I believe in the mission, and I believe that I'm the right person to run the business, but I'm not an expert at everything, right? Like,
Sure.
I'm not. I know enough, I know you're a sports guy, and so I look at myself a little bit like a quarterback. I know a little bit about a lot of different things, but I'm not an expert in all of this. And so
Right.
certainly, yeah, if a Mark Cuban came by, I'd love to have a conversation, but I'm not really ready at this point
Yep.
to let go of Lofty Lou.
For sure.
But there's some big decisions to be made in regards to what retailers I'm interested in partnering up with. Again, this isn't a product for me right now to sell just as a strict commodity, and it's so much more than money for me.
Yep. And definitely sounds like it's kind of a greater purpose. Really just trying to help out and kind of provide value, and not only to, pet owners, but also to pets, which I love to hear. And it, like you said, it seems like the money is probably kind of coming second to that. Yeah, it's a part of the business because it is a business, and kind of you're selling product, and you have to kind of it all has to make sense, but that's not necessarily the main focus that's driving you per se, which actually can be a good thing. It seems like if you're just kind of all in it for strictly for the money, it seems like that kind of never works. It has to be kind of maybe a bigger purpose, which it seems like you have in things. And again, it's great because now you have all these options, whether it's licensing, whether you maybe want to sell maybe the IP or maybe sell the business at some point, or maybe you just kind of want to continue to run it and kind of pass it down to uh your kids one day. So it seems like you definitely have a lot of options, which is a great thing. Let me ask you this because no, and you've been working on this thing for 4 years, so you know that kind of life. I mean, the business is not like just a constant incline. You have it's like more of a sine wave where you have kind of good periods and kind of more challenging periods. I always like to ask two questions. Number one, what was maybe the biggest breakthrough of the company of Lofty Loo at this point in time, and then maybe what was one of the biggest challenges that you guys had to overcome?
So my biggest, I think, aha breakthrough for Lofty Loo was being able to bring my manufacturing back into the United States. Like, I am so happy. I am so proud. When I did my prototyping and my testing, I started out in China.
Mm.
That was a whole new ball game for me. And like every crazy entrepreneur, Dave, I pulled out my retirement. I am all in on Lofty Loo,
Yeah.
right? And so it's risky. Personally, I wanted to keep my company and my business and my manufacturing in the United States.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do that because I'm a one person show with a cabinet idea. Like who's going to mass produce and work with somebody that's got a cabinet and a dream? Like good luck with that.
Right.
So I started out in China, did my prototyping, did my testing, felt like I was getting close and had obviously my patent work and continuing that. And then I was able to partner. I don't know if partner is the right word. And Dave, I always say we, like it's you and me, like we, like I have like a team, like we're gonna
I
do
like
this.
that. I
And
like that.
it's really just me, but I feel like I've got, my team are people like you that are just supportive and
Yep.
loving and helping me share Lofty Loop. I
Absolutely.
digress. So the biggest aha for me and biggest impact was being able to bring my manufacturing to the United States. I am manufacturing with one of America's largest, most respected furniture makers. They're based in Ohio. Love, love, love them. I am able to get on a Zoom call with them, just like I am with you today, hash out how things are going, manage my inventory, talk about quality, giving them feedback. Love it.
Nice.
The other, I would say, the downfall for me right now, in I guess what's keeping me up at night is my price.
Mm.
So my mission is to obviously take care of people, right? And I'm trying to get my price down lower to be more affordable. And as we know, in today's time, everything is expensive. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like
a lot about that.
I used to go to like Walmart, Costco, spend $100, and I mean, I'm good for a
Two,
week.
3 carts worth of stuff. Now that $100 and it's like, what? These 4 or
I get
5
like
items
two
cost
sacks,
$100?
like two sacks for
Yeah.
$90, and I mean, what do I do with this? Like
Yep.
everything is expensive, and so you can imagine what manufacturing in the United States cost, in addition to quality manufacturing, and I think that is also a differentiator between Lofty Loo and other cabinets for cats that are on the market.
Yeah.
Lofty Loo is built to last the lifetime of the cat. This isn't something that you're going to buy and in 3 to 6 months, the hinges are going to be wobbly and the door is going to fall off. This is a quality piece of furniture. And so, as a small business, how to scale and be somewhat affordable is a challenge right now. Obviously, volume fixes everything, right? So, my next phase, if I'm able to partner with a large retailer and we're pushing out mass volume,
Yeah.
the cost will come down. But that's kind of the struggle I'm in now. It's like, and maybe even the consideration of bringing an investor
Yeah,
or not bringing in an investor to license to not license. I mean, there's a lot of ebb and flows of everything's great, but also lots of things could be better.
for sure. And that's actually that's pretty interesting, and that kind of just goes to show you that your whole it's not necessarily about, I guess, the money, even though again, the money is a part of kind of running a business, so you can't completely just kind of throw it to the back burner, but it's not like your main focus because it seems like if that was your main focus, you could have probably continued to manufacture this thing in kind of China for maybe a fraction of the cost of kind of the US manufacturing and kind of have kind of bigger profits and not have that keep you up at night. But that's like, no, I don't want to do it that way, which again, like I said, is a testament to kind of your vision and having a bigger purpose for things. What would you want to get that manufacturing price out of curiosity down to? What was like the target goal if you have one in mind?
I mean, that's the $1,000,000 question, right? So, I feel like I've got a solid price right now, a fair price.
Yeah.
The price is 288
Yep.
and it's selling. I see the value in it. My customers see the value in it. It again, what is your back pain worth? What is your knee pain worth?
Yeah.
What is it worth to not bend down to the ground to change your cat's litter box?
Yeah.
What is it worth to not have just a regular old litter pan sitting on the floor with all your supplies scattered? This is a nice piece of furniture.
For sure.
So, I, you know, I guess it's more of an internal struggle for me because you get a lot of these online haters, right? This is my next step of being strong. Similar to how I had said earlier, when I have naysayers saying, where are you at with this? And what's taking you so long? Now I'm confident enough to say, like, have you ever brought a product to market? Have you ever invented anything? Where before I wasn't able to. And
Mm,
so now when I came out with Lofty Loo and its price at 288, I have these naysayers in my ear saying that's too expensive. That's, people can't afford that. And so I'm thinking like, where's the rub? The value is there. Everything is expensive. It's not like I'm running away to the beach because I'm making so much profit. The parts, the people, the company, it takes a lot of effort to
yeah,
build and bring this to the market. And so what is it worth? I mean, that's something that will always be a conversation.
for sure.
What is the value? And again, obviously with volume, things change. But for
Yeah.
right now, it is what it is. I think that was more of just a personal
Yep.
um, a personal note to like just let you know where my heart is. I would love to have this price at under $100,
For
right?
sure.
But
No,
not
and
also in the midst of going bankrupt.
right, right.
So,
No, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, again, when you think about just hey, cats are not going anywhere. This is not like, okay, a hot thing for the moment. It's like, no, cats will always be around. Cats will always like to kind of be at elevated levels and perch and things like that. So, and this, like you said before, this is the first of its kind. So again, all those things definitely line up to the point where, hey man, this thing is going to be around. This thing is not going anywhere, which I love when I kind of look at things, not only from a IP attorney's perspective, but from a business perspective, like, man, okay, this is really something there. And yeah, like you said, the volume would always kind of drive that price down in terms of manufacturing it. I'm pretty sure. I know. Look, you're. I was going to say a killer, but I'm trying not to use that word. Uh, uh,
especially around cats, we
yeah,
can't
right, right,
mention
right,
that.
right, exactly. But you kind of get the point when I say a killer. But again, I definitely think you will figure it out. One of the things I did kind of mention, and I'm gonna maybe ask you one more question before kind of getting you out of here. I want to be respectful of your time. But one of the things I did, and you kind of said it in passing, is the fact that you did so much kind of research and research as you were coming out with this thing. You talked about talking to vets, talking to cat experts and professionals and things like people who not just okay, I'm on the internet, which is great, but talking to veterinarians and things like that to try to get this information so you can kind of create the best product. I think that was I mean that's great, and especially when you're talking about creating a product, you need that type of level of dedication and kind of being able to kind of get information to kind of create the best product. And it seems like you definitely did that. So I did want to kind of say kudos to you for that. I guess the last question or the last maybe two questions is what is this something? What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? I would imagine that people who are kind of watching this show, they're maybe kind of doing a whole double dutch thing, kind of like, okay, do I get into the entrepreneurship game? Do I not get into the entrepreneurship game? And what advice would you give to somebody like that who is aspiring to be an entrepreneur? Maybe they have an ideal, or they have kind of see different things that can kind of be improved upon, and they just kind of, for whatever reason, haven't taken those steps. What advice would you give to someone like that?
So, for me, entrepreneurship, product development just runs through my veins. Like it just runs through my blood. It's kind of who I am. And even when I was working for corporate and getting that nice corporate paycheck, I ran my department and my companies as if it were my own. I
Mm,
also had always dreamed. It was a lifetime bucket list for me to be able to invent a product. And every time I had an idea, Dave, it was like, oh, that's taken. Oh, I could do this. And I was like, oh, that's already taken. And so I think you've got to have that kind of innate passion
mm,
about wanting to bring something to market. In addition, I think if you find that idea, like Lofty Loo, I think just came to me. I really do think it was like a godsend. Like,
mm,
what are the chances that I would be building cat litter boxes? Like, how does this happen?
yeah,
But I think when purpose meets opportunity and you're ready for it, at that point, there is no time for wishy-washy. This is you grab the bull by the horns and you take that thing and you ride it all the way, right? And I think that's kind of what you were saying about whether it's that killer idea, that killer instinct, but this is a no holds barred. I'm taking this product. I have a dream, I have a mission, I have a purpose, and we're going to see this thing through. Because, like we talked about earlier, there's going to be so many naysayers or so many people who laugh at you. And it's taken me a long time to like be this confident to even get on a podcast. And I think I maybe was telling you prior to going live on the podcast, like doing this is so vulnerable for me. And people may look at me and say, oh, she's an extrovert and she likes the camera, or she's so comfortable doing this. And quite frankly, I'm the opposite. Like I can relate to cats because I just want to be left alone. Like, don't call me, don't put me in camera, just leave me alone. Um, so a lot of it is you're being brought out of your comfort level, right? So, my kind of personal persona is I was a corporate executive. I wore like suits and high heels to work every day and went to work when my kids were sleeping and I would come home when my kids were sleeping. I worked and that was who I was as a corporate healthcare executive. And now I'm working from home and I mean, I dressed up for you today in my sweater, but it's about, it's about passion and it's about believing in it, regardless of what the outside world has to say, whether they're laughing at you or poking fun of you behind your back or doubting you. Those are the things that fuel me. And I feel like if you are an inventor out there, you have a product idea and you believe in it, go for it. And if there's any hesitation, it's probably not the right time to do it because it's expensive. There's a ton of risk. There's a huge opportunity that you're going to fail.
yeah,
And so if any of those are in your mind, they just can't be.
yeah.
You just have to trust that it's going to happen. And I've always been a big believer in manifestations and what you think and what you believe and what you tell yourself will be. And I do still believe in that, but you ought to have a damn good product to back it up.
For sure, for sure. No, and look, I loved I almost want to drop the mic for you and just walk off at this point because I love everything that you just said,
Aw,
and just some of
thank
the recaps of. And I've kind of never heard because I asked this, at least that question, to everyone who I interview in terms of that inspiring advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs. And I think you're dead on when you say, hey, if there's any hesitation, it's probably not for you because you can't hesitate when you're looking to kind of do this thing. You have to almost have this kind of crazy confidence in yourself that things are going to kind of work out. So I would agree with that 100%, as opposed to trying to going
amen.
into it and maybe I don't know, you're not as confident or you're hesitating for whatever reason. Or you have to be all in. That's one of the great things when I was playing football at Michigan State. Coach Antonio, my head, the football coach, then he was like, "You either in or you're out. There's no gray area. You're either in or you're out." And that's something that I kind of took with me, kind of just through life. If I'm kind of doing something, I'm all in, as opposed to kind of this wishy washy or one foot in, one foot out type of thing. So yeah, I love the fact that you say, "Hey, man, if you're doing it, it can't be any hesitation. You got to know that you probably will fail, but you don't care about that, and you're going to do it anyway." And I love that.
Mm,
Love that. And then
mm,
I guess
mm.
the last question is more so, how can people follow you? How can people purchase the product? And I guess for me, I didn't ask you this, and this is more of a kind of a selfish question. How did you come up with the name Lofty Loo? 'Cause I think that's a really cool name.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how many people have said, how many people did it take to come up with that name? Like, I'm from a marketing background. And so I think people just assumed we've got this big corporate marketing executive like round table and we've got all these whiteboards and we're lit. Dave, like 2 seconds, Lofty Lou. Like again, I don't
Really?
know if it's God thing. To
It
me,
just came to you like that?
it just makes sense. It's lofted and it's a Lou, Lofty Lou. Like it just, I didn't hesitate. It just happened.
There
So
you go.
I
And look,
love the name too.
bringing it full circle. She not hesitating. It just came to her and she went with it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was looking at that. I'm like, man, that's a pretty cool name. And then, like you said, it kind of fits what is going on. So that's cool. But yeah, I guess the other part of it was, how can people follow you? I'm not sure if you're on socials, things like that. And then how can people purchase the product? Because I would imagine that we have a ton of cat owners out there. So how can people purchase the product if that's something that they wanted to do?
Thank you so much. So if you want to find me, it's really simple. Lofty, Lofty, Lou, Loo. So loftylou.com. That's my website. Don't judge. I did it all myself. If you have any suggestions, please send them my way. I'm all ears. You can also find me on social. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. All of the handles are at Lofty Lou. You can Google search Lofty Lou. Call, email, text, send flyers. I'm all ears and whiskers, always available. I can talk cats and litter boxes all day long. And I'm just so happy to be here today. And one thing I want to mention that I didn't,
I
that's
know.
so important to cat lovers and to cats, because just as owners have disabilities, so do cats, right?
Mm.
And so a question I get a lot of the times are, what if I'm disabled and have mobility issues? But also, what if my cat is disabled and has mobility issues? The good thing is Lofty Lou is pet stair and ramp compatible.
Mm.
So there's lots of options out there on the market already to choose what works best for your space and your home and your style. And there's also lots of opportunities and options for cats that are disabled for floor level litter pans, right? There's not ever like a one size fits all. And our mission is to elevate your daily cat care routine
Mm.
with Lofty Lou Elevated Litter Station.
Nice, nice. Well, I think that was definitely concludes a good way to end the interview on. Again, hopefully, audience members, you had your pen and your paper out, because she dropped a lot of jewels, not just with her story and kind of coming up with her product, but also just kind of the mindset you have to have when you're kind of going into business, kind of based on the product that you created. I enjoyed this, and again, like I said, this took us some time to kind of get to you guys. We had to kind of jump through a lot of hoops from just a technical difficulty standpoint, but we made it, and I'm glad that I did. And I think this is a cool one. Hopefully, you guys got something out of it, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.